Most founders sound exactly like the people they're trying to compete against. If you want to be competitive in a crowded market, you can't just be better, you have to be different. I'm your host, Cameron Olds.
And I'm Dallin Merrill. We're here to talk about how you can avoid being mistaken for your competition, differentiate your brand, and ultimately be the most exciting choice in the market.
Welcome to Differentiate or Die.
Join us today in the inaugural Differentiation War segment as we dissect the heated rivalry between Minky Couture and Lola blankets.
It's a showdown against two blanket giants, but the question is, are they truly different, or are they hoping no one notices that they're basically clones?
This episode of Differentiate or Die is brought to you by Message OS, and by brought by, we mean written by. Every line you hear, every call to action, headline, or punchy one-liner, Message OS helps us write it fast, on message, perfectly consistent, no second guessing. It's like having a strategist, copywriter, and brand guardian in one AI-powered tool. If you're building a brand and tired of sounding like everyone else, Message OS keeps your message differentiated and consistent. Try it at protagonistcomms.co. See it in the link description below.
Okay, today we're starting, as Daryl said, a segment called Differentiation Wars, where we put two competing brands under the microscope to see how they're trying or failing to differentiate themselves in the same space. So each showdown, we're going to dissect the positioning, poke holes in their messaging, and call out what works and what doesn't when it comes to standing out in a crowded market. Let's just jump into the subjects of today, which is Lola blankets and Minky Couture. So just some background here for anyone that's not living in Utah. You're probably not familiar with these two, but it's taken Utah by storm, and that's because for the longest time, Minky Couture was the kind of not by kind of like they were the hegemon of premium blankets in Utah. So like both of them sell premium, high quality, really, really thick, nice material blankets. And Minky had started in Utah and had really captured all of the market, kind of created the market. Would you say, Daryl?
Yeah, totally. Like they were founded in 2003. In 2009, sorry. And just really took off. They basically put their niche in premium blankets. Nobody had ever done it before, not just in Utah, but internationally even. So it was a really new product that really took hold. And it started, if I remember right, it was baby blankets. They were like, oh, why do only babies get these really nice fluffy blankets? I want one. Like, I want a super nice fluffy blanket, not just my baby. So they created these really big baby blankets that were super fluffy.
It wasn't uncommon, or it's not uncommon in Utah still, if you're like moving into a new house, or if you, like Daryl said, if you have a new baby, or if you're like going to college, like it's not uncommon for you to get a Minky blanket as a gift. Like when I moved into my new house, my builder had a Minky Couture blanket in our bedroom when we moved in and when we got the keys. So like they had really, really successfully penetrated the market and kind of created this new category of like premium designer blankets.
Yeah. And now products around them, like, blanket ladders are now a huge thing because people want them shown, not just in a cabinet. It's a premium item that people want to show in their homes.
And for a long time, and by a long time, I mean for like the majority of their existence until quite recently, Minky was like the apex predator of this industry, of this market, because they just didn't have any competition, at least here in Utah. It was only Minky. And then, what would you say, Daryl, like a few months ago, 6 months ago or something like that?
Yeah, 6 months ago.
Yeah, entered Lola blankets.
Well, they were founded 11 years after, so 2021, they were founded.
Yeah, they're still really new. So Minky was 2009, Lola was 2021, I believe.
Yeah.
But then, like, Lola decided they wanted a piece of the Utah market for some reason. And over the past 6 months, they have just been bombarding Utah with with billboards trying to capture the premium blanket market here in Utah. That resulted in Minky also putting up a ton of billboards. And and when I say a ton of billboards, like, how many would you think, Daryl? Like, if you're driving up and down I-15, up and down the Wasatch Front, how many Minky billboards do you think you see, and how many Lola billboards do you think you see?
About the same amount per each. Like, you see about each, but I'd say there's probably 10, across I-15. There's a lot. And those aren't inexpensive. They're expensive things to put up.
And so what we have is two products that are by and large similar. Like, they're premium blankets, they're big blankets, they have designer material, premium material, and they're duking it out in these billboard wars, spending tens of thousands of dollars a month trying to win market share from the other. And what we're here to talk about today is, okay, cool. So pretty much same product, designer blankets, arguably same material. They're both made out of polyester. And these billboards,
and similar price too. I wanted to add. They start around $89 for a baby blanket. So if you can imagine what a large blanket would be, an extra large blanket, which could go over your bed, your king bed, is about $300. So so if you really want to spend on a really nice blanket, that's what you're looking at, is $300 for an extra large. And there's some ads. I know that Minky does quite a few ads, even 50% off, whereas Lola hasn't done that as much. But similar pricing on both of those companies.
Similar pricing, similar product. And so let's take a look at how they talk about themselves. Let's see if they're doing anything to position themselves in a different way, so that they're not perceived as the same thing. So before we hopped on, I went and looked at their websites just to see, hey, what are they saying on the main page where people go to buy these things. And if you go to Minky Couture, softminkyblankets.com, which is Minky Couture's website, if you scroll down, one of the first things you're going to see is this header that says, the softest luxury designer blankets. So I'll say that again, the softest luxury designer blankets. So that's kind of how they're positioning themselves, is, hey, we're the softest and we're luxury designer blankets.
Do you want to know what Lola says?
What does Lola say?
All right, here we go. Life-changing softness. And then underneath that, you deserve to be comfortable. And then underneath that, internet's softest blankets.
The internet's softest blankets. Yes. So the message.
What do you want, Cameron? Which blanket are you going to take?
I have no idea, man. Maybe let me just flip a coin and decide that way, because it's they're both soft. I don't know if people want. Maybe you could have you can make the argument that people want a weighted blanket, but other than that, I'm I think people just generally want a soft blanket. But they're both saying they're soft, and so it's okay, cool. If you're both soft, what else is there?
All right. So if you look a little further down on Lola's, Lola prides itself on 4-way stretch fox fur fabric. How do you say that?
Faux fur.
Faux
French,
fur fabric.
Adds to the premium. Get that French in there.
Vegan and cruelty-free and contemporary designs.
And then let's see what Minky says. Sewn with love. I'm trying to find if they have any.
They don't.
They don't. Yeah.
That's it. That's all they say about their blankets.
That's all they say about their blankets. There you
go. They say they're with the highest quality Minky fabric, using high quality sewing machines.
High quality sewing machines, yeah.
And then other than that, it just has some testimonials and links to blankets in their shop.
Yeah. I think Minky, additionally, I think Minky's tagline for the longest time was like best blanket ever. And that's
Yeah.
what you would see on their billboards is best blanket ever.
Yeah.
Or, something, wrap yourself in comfort or wrap yourself in luxury or softness or something like that. That's normally what you would see in their billboards. And arguably it's still what you see on their billboards.
Yeah. And to give them credit, they were the OG, right?
Yeah.
So that was different, right? I mean, they didn't necessarily say how or why, but they were the softest blanket ever. Like there wasn't any other blanket that could really compare to the Minky blanket.
They really did create that. I feel like that product category of just this luxury designer blanket. And so to their credit, I do think they created something different. At the time when they were starting, I do think it was different. I think they created a new product for an interesting market, and I think they rode that success for a really, really long time. But now I think you're starting to see people like obviously Lola, but then other people too that maybe have been around a little longer than Lola, but haven't made as big a splash as they have.
The other thing is, if you just based on their home pages, I'm not sure what blanket I would buy. So
Right.
personally, what I did was I'm like, okay, if I'm going to buy a $300 blanket, I better know which one I'm going to buy. Like I want to be sure that I'm getting the best bang for my buck. So instead of using what I thought would be the best information, I went to just the internet, went to Reddit, kind of looked around there, looked around what other people were saying. And what do you think I found, Cameron? What do you think people were saying about the two brands?
Did you find some honest reviews?
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people on there were saying that they love the stretch that Lola blanket has.
Because they have that four-way stretch.
Yes.
They kind of tout that on their website, right?
Not on their main page. And they don't really share it. They do, but you got to dig even deeper.
Right.
So yes, they do talk about it, but they love the stretch of Lola blankets compared to Minky Couture. They also think it washes better. It keeps their softness after a wash. And so a lot of people really liked that.
Interesting. One of my pain points with plush blankets is that they become like way too hot in the summer.
Yeah.
I don't usually sleep with a ton of blankets in the summer anyway, but like if I am for whatever reason, if my wife is really, really cold, we'll sleep with one, but like I still love the luxury field, but it gets a little too hot.
Yeah.
So I know that Lola says that four-way stretch also helps with like breathability, right? Like you're not going to get cooked under this blanket because of their four-way stretch. Or no, that's not their four-way stretch. Is it their seams or something like that?
Yeah, well, you're really close. It is their four-way stretch, but also they have they call it breathable bubble stitching. So if you look at a Minky blanket, it looks flat because they stitch it flat, whereas Lola, they have these bubbles in it, which I think is partially for design, but also it helps it breathe a little bit better as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So if you want, I mean, in my opinion, that if you want something more breathable, you might not want a thick blanket like that in the first place. But,
right.
If you want the better of the two, I think that Lola's is more breathable because there's more air pockets because of their stitching.
Interesting. Okay, so do you think you could actually build a differentiated position based off of features like that? So a lot when you're talking about differentiation in a market like this or with products like these, I think everyone's default instinct is to look at feature sets and how are features different and how many features does one have compared to the other. Do you think that you could build a differentiated position in the marketplace based off of just these types of features like the bubble stitching and the four-way stretch stuff?
I think it can set you apart, right? Like if I'm going to buy a blanket like Lola's or Minky's, I want if they're the same price, if they're saying the same things, I want to know, right? So I think that can help differentiate yourself.
Gotcha. But do they tout these things in their marketing?
Yeah.
So like they have all of these billboards. They have so many billboards up and down I-15. Is Lola touting this breathability and stretchability as a differentiating factor? Have you seen anything like that?
Nowhere.
And I think that's the problem, is like, it's not that your product isn't different or unique. There's a great quote I love, and I will put the actual whoever said it in the show notes. I can't remember off the top of my head, but essentially he says that there's no such thing as a commodity. It's just a product waiting to be differentiated. And I believe that to some extent. I think that most companies, most products in some form or fashion are or could have a niche difference that you could build a moat around. The problem is, it's not that you're not different. It's that you just don't talk about it as if you were different. You don't tout your differences. It's like the marketing department of all these companies just kind of like looks on the competition's website and they're like, yeah, we do that. Let's just copy and paste what they're saying.
Exactly. And that's the issue. It's a valid point. I think that they really miss the opportunity to truly differentiate themselves. They don't look at what people are saying about them or what their big differences actually are. They focus too much on being the softest or being the exact same as their competition instead of trying to. They feel like they miss out on their target market if they differentiate too much. They'd rather just be the softest blanket ever.
So what do you think? So like, if you're not differentiated, do you think a billboard war like this or an ad war like this is cost effective?
No, I think to a point, it's giving them both exposure, but they're losing as much as they're gaining, right? Especially Minky, right? Lola's gaining more just because they're using Minky to get themselves more exposure. But because they were newer in the market. So I think they win more, but they also are missing out on a lot of clients who just don't do their research because they're not talking about themselves different enough. I think they would really benefit from putting up the billboards and showing what is different about them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you perfectly summed it up. I think you either you differentiate or you die. You spend the money in a strategically wise direction, saying this is how I'm different. Yes, like we're blankets, but also you have these considerations. Like if you're wanting something a little different or whatever, lead with that. Lead with how you're different, so that you're kind of forcing a choice. You're not, because when we looked at it earlier, they both say the softest blanket. That's the only thing they tout. Really, like up front in your face in bold letters, that's the only thing they tout, is they're both the world's softest blankets. And so you're not forcing a choice. There's no clear reason to choose one over the other. And so if you don't do that and you're spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on these billboards, which aren't cheap, by the way, I don't even know how they turn profit. Like they'd have to sell so many blankets to turn a profit here. So if you don't lead with a differentiated message, you just bleed to death in ad wars like this, which is what I think is probably happening. If I'm being honest, it's a pyrrhic. I don't even know how to say it, but it's something like a pyrrhic victory. It's a victory, but it comes at such a devastating cost to you that it's like, was it a victory? Like the other guy lost, but like I barely won. So like, was it even worth it?
Yeah, exactly. And for those like Minky, like, oh, we always buy Minky because they were originals. I don't think you're swaying them, right? By putting up billboards like that, you're not doing anything to them. They're going to stay where they're at. So that is the issue unless you tell them why they need to change.
Because you have the incumbent, you have the. I mean, Minky's bunkered down here in Utah. Like that's a tough lift for Lola to come in
and internationally.
Right.
So that's going to be even harder than Utah, because people in Utah kind of like the battle. They think it's fun and funny, and they might know people that are from one company or the other, and so it can add something there. But
Pyrrhic victory. That's how you say it. Pyrrhic victory.
Perfect. Yeah.
Pyrrhic victory. Yeah, it's a victory that comes at such devastating cost to the victor that it might not even be considered a victory.
Let's talk just briefly about what you would do, Cameron. How would you differentiate their product?
Yeah, great question. Okay, so I think Lola might already kind of be doing a rudimentary version of what I would do if I were Lola, because like to people listening that aren't living in Utah and aren't seeing these billboards on their way to work or on the way home every day. There's a marked difference in visuals, or maybe not even visual, kind of. I mean, it's always people wrapped in blankets, and there's always blankets on chairs and stuff like that. So like, it's not different that way because it's the same product. But Minky is very much the motherly, sweet, tender-hearted vibe, where it's like it's a bunch of women primarily, looking happy wrapped in blankets. Lola, on the other hand, went a totally different way visually, and I got to hand it to him. But I think it's a smart idea. They, I think, are leaning into like the sex appeal, because it's kind of like Abercrombie Fitch models meets luxury blankets, because like they've got these guys with washboard abs on this cool vintage car, and the blankets draped off the back of the trunk. And I saw another one where this guy, he's got his shirt off and he's got, tight abs, and he's working on his car. he's laying down working on the undercarriage of his car, but instead of like a mechanic's slide deck or whatever, he's laying on a Lola blanket. If you can just picture that. And so anyway, so that was a long walk for a short drink of water. But what I'm saying is, okay, cool. I think you could differentiate. I think Lola could differentiate itself just based off target audience. I think Lola could go for the higher end. I mean, it's already a high end market, and there's no difference in price. Like they're priced the same way, but they could go for a different demographic. So instead of the sweet moms and grandmas giving gifts to their new grandkids or whatever, they could go for like the more affluent, style conscious consumer that maybe has a little bit more money and is a little bit more concerned they don't want to look like grandmas and stuff like that, and they could go that way. I think they are visually. I think that's where they're going. But I would definitely. But like, if that's the way they're going, then the message has to match that. Like, they have to start talking to the pain points of that customer demographic inside the market. I don't know. What do you think? Have you given any thought to that?
Yeah, definitely. And I agree. I think they've started, because you can see like their website does say stuff that match that demographic, but they don't tout it. It's not their main message. It's still the softest blanket ever. Which to me matches a little bit more of what Minky's doing.
Right.
Like, they are the ones that really care. Lola obviously cares. They want it to be soft, but like, that is not your main message here. That's not really what you're touting, because you're not ever going to beat Minky in that category. So you have to appeal to what your target audience wants. And so tout some of these other messages that match what that demographic wants, like you're talking about.
I think a starting idea, if there's anyone from Lola listening, would be, hey, I think the kind of vibe that I think you probably want to go for, that would, I think, differentiate you from Minky, just because Minky, I think, kind of embedded itself into the LDS culture here in Utah, where it's it's like Relief Society president style. That's such a niche reference to those of you that aren't a member of of the LDS faith. But like, it's sweet and it's innocent and it's kind and it's all that stuff. I think the vibe you could go for and the messaging you could go for is something along the lines of, hey, this is the blanket that like Kim Kardashian would use. Like if you were to sit on Kim Kardashian's couch, her nice white not leather couch, I don't know what she's got, but like, you know, this blanket would not feel weird sitting next to a Louis Vuitton, Gucci bag and, you know, coffee table books of art. Like that's the kind of vibe I think. And there's the messaging in there, I think, has to catch up to the visuals, because I think you're already doing it with visuals. Like Dallin said, the messaging has to catch up to the visuals. And once it does, I think you'll see some serious gains. I think you'll see some serious gains because at that point you'll force a choice. There's a distinction. You know, it's not apples and apples. What do I want? Do I want one apple or do I want another apple? It's, hey, apples and oranges. What do I want more today? Do I want an apple or do I want an orange? Here's all the reasons that oranges are better for you.
I wonder if, I mean, this might be even like too much, but you could even just say the sexiest blanket ever. You know?
Right. Oh, even that, you know, like, yeah.
Yeah. And you could be a little more subtle than that, you know, that maybe is too much in your face. But even that is a huge change. And they still get that it's a soft blanket. Like, right. Come on.
There you go. That's the message. Okay, so let's transition to what we're going to watch for. What are we going to watch for as this this differentiation war here in Utah takes shape and continues to move? I'm looking at two things. I'm looking at how does Lola continue to differentiate itself? Does it lean more into the high-end premium sex appeal luxury market? It feels weird to describe a luxury market as a luxury market because they're already luxury blankets. But how does Lola start to differentiate themselves somehow? And the second thing I'm looking at is, hey, does Minky stay the same? Does Minky double down on their own identity that they've built here that's kind of entrenched in Utah culture? Do they double down on that or do they pivot? What are you looking at, Daryl?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at their product features as well. I think that's not necessarily specifically their messaging, but they need to add it in there because they are differing a lot of features.
Agreed.
So hopefully if they do, they'll live on. But if not, I feel like Minky has too much of the OG, especially internationally. Lola might grab a Utah market, but they won't go any further than that.
Right.
So differentiate or die.
Differentiate or die. All right, everyone. If you are listening to this and you're like, dang, I'm in the same situation. I am in a crowded market and I have billboards running, I have ads running, and I'm looking at the ads my competitors running and they sound the exact same. I wouldn't be able to tell us apart. If you've been listening to this and you think, oh shoot, that's me. I'm in a differentiation war. Protagonist, our company, Daryl and I founded Protagonist. We're the ones that can help you figure out what differentiates you and how can you communicate it clearly. So if you have that problem, we can help you. Go to protagonistcomps.co and you can start differentiating yourselves. You can not be better, but you can be different. Thanks for tuning in today on Differentiate or Die. We'll catch you next time.